Hey gang, ready to upgrade your denim game for the fall? Our friends at Mott & Bow handcraft premium quality jeans. I'm wearing my pair now, I gotta say. Unbelievably soft. Never had a pair of jeans that were so comfortable without having to break them in. And Mott & Bow has a free try-on program. You get 2 sizes to try at home, keep the one that fits, and send the other one back for free. These jeans are already priced under market because they cut out all the retail markups, but the deal's even better when you go to mottandbow.com and use promo code Harris for 20% off. That's mottandbow.com, promo code Harris. Now let's get to the show.
It's the Harris Football Podcast with your host, Christopher Harris.
Welcome. Yeah, welcome in. I am Chris Harris. This is the Harris Football Podcast. Thank you so much for listening. Really excited to announce we've got swag. That's right. You can finally buy some Harris Football merchandise. We got shirts, I think like a cell phone case, a coffee mug, a baby's onesie. Mostly shirts for now. And what's great about that is 4 of our listeners contributed designs, and they're just awesome. The unbelievably multi-talented Viola James did a cool design with the logo. Ben Steele contributed a T-Rich balloon-themed shirt design. Andy Cross contributed a hilarious duck hands design. We have a footy pajama-themed design by Bradley Doty. Thanks to all of you very much. You can see this merchandise by going to harrisfootball.com and clicking on merchandise. That'll send you off to the site that's hosting our stuff, and you'll be able to pick different kinds of items to stick the various logos on. I wanted to re-mention we're going to donate all profits to the ASPCA and the ALS Foundation, and we also can take more designs. So if you've got a great design idea, make it ready to roll, send it along to heyharris@harrisfootball.com.
Today's kickoff.
On today's show, the film review begins in earnest for Week 6. I've done the work for you. I have slaved away over the game film. I'll tell you what I saw I think can help your fantasy team. I'll talk Broncos Browns, Panthers Seahawks, Chargers Packers, and Bengals Bills. We'll have a great song from the wonderful Steve Barry, our second straight show with an Elton John tribute. And then Andy Behrens from Yahoo Fantasy will come aboard, and we'll discuss Patriots Colts and Bears Lions, and also do a preview of Monday night's Giants-Eagles game. You do whatever it takes to make sure your business runs efficiently, but constant trips to the post office can get in the way. With Stamps.com, you'll be able to spend less time at the post office and more time growing your business. Stamps.com makes mailing and shipping easy. Use your own computer and printer to buy and print official U.S. postage for any letter and any package. Stamps.com does all the thinking for you. With the digital scale, it'll calculate the exact postage needed, and it helps you decide the best class of mail based on your needs. Join over 500,000 small businesses that use Stamps.com and never go to the post office again. We here at the Little Podcast That Could use Stamps.com to send out swag and our business correspondence, and I can't imagine doing business without it. Right now, sign up for Stamps.com and use my promo code Harris for this special offer, a 4-week trial plus a $110 bonus offer including postage and a digital scale. Don't wait, go to Stamps.com, and before you do anything else, click on the microphone at the top of the homepage and type in Harris. That's Stamps.com, enter Harris. All right, I wanted to start out with Broncos Browns because this was going to be an opportunity for some Denver running back to do some good work against a suspect Browns run defense. The frustration for C.J. Anderson owners is it was Ronnie Hillman who took advantage. So I don't have snap counts in front of me early on a Monday morning, but to my eyes on film, it really wasn't a case where Hillman dramatically outsnapped Anderson, but it wasn't Anderson who broke anything major. You know, it was Hillman. He had a 20-plus yard run. He had a bunch of nice edge plays. Wound up giving him a pretty nice afternoon, and yet Anderson had 4 straight carries to end the game in overtime, including converting a big 3rd and 2. I don't think I can come out of this game and just say, oh yeah, for sure, Ronnie Hillman, he's now the starter. He took advantage of the matchup better, but Anderson played in key spots. I mean, I just don't think you can feel good about using either guy week to week. Let's move on to the day in Peyton Manning. Listen, sometimes it is fun for me to play the role of contrarian and tell you that the things the box score are saying aren't necessarily true. But, I don't want to bury my head in the sand or maintain foolish consistencies. This was not a good day for Peyton Manning. I still don't think it's all that related to arm strength. The go-ahead touchdown in the fourth quarter, that was a laser to Emmanuel Sanders. He threw all the way across the field a couple of times accurately. He just made a few awful, terrible, unforgivable throws in this game. His first interception, great play by Carlos Dansby, dropping into coverage. Manning didn't see him. But the fourth quarter pick 6 was behind Ronnie Hillman. It wasn't a soft throw, it was an inaccurate throw. And the overtime pick, it was soft, but it wasn't arm strength. It was just such a stupid decision. Just terrible, un-Peyton-like. We're left with single fantasy point production for Manning 3 weeks in a row. I thought the Denver offensive line did a significantly better job this week. I don't think you blame the bad plays on them, or like I said, on arm strength. I think this is just run-of-the-mill, stupid, bad quarterbacking in a couple of spots. I don't know how to explain it, but I get it. At some point this year, I think Manning is going to be back, but no excuse making. You can't see enough greatness here from him on tape right now to use him in fantasy. By the way, Demaryius Thomas did him no favors with maybe 3 drops, definitely 2. One on a late fourth quarter drive, one a horrible one in overtime. Fortunately, Thomas and Emmanuel Sanders racked up enough numbers to be useful themselves on Sunday. I'm excited about how the Browns are using Travis Benjamin. He was a fantasy darling very early this season because he kept making that one big play way down the field, but I would always tell you his reception total is so low. Fantasy production just does not feel sustainable. And they are still taking some shots to Travis Benjamin. There was an end zone post route that was almost a touchdown, but Aqib Talib broke it up. But, these past couple weeks, including Sunday, you're also seeing Josh McCown taking notice of the fact that corners are playing off of Benjamin, and he will take the quick hitter and get the ball in Benjamin's hands in space. So, you see several 8-yard gains or 11-yard gains or whatever. And, we like the big plays, no question, but I want to see variety. Benjamin also came really close to catching a halftime Hail Mary on a deflection. I am more and more intrigued by his usage. I can't get crazy on him, mostly because his quarterback is Josh McCown. Josh McCown ebbs and flows like crazy, but gradually Benjamin's going to keep going up the receiver ranks. This looked like a tough matchup, and he played well. Gary Barnidge did squadoosh in the first half. And then, like clockwork, you get your red zone touchdown in the third quarter and your red zone touchdown in the fourth quarter. Everything about my experience doing this tells me that the gravy train will probably end, but who cares? You stay on it until the gravy train crashes into mashed potato mountain or whatever. The Browns running backs. Yeah, got more complicated this week. Robert Turbin joins the group. All 3 of these backs, including Duke Johnson, Isaiah Crowell, pretty much, to my eye, used interchangeably. There's talent there, but I don't think any of them are real stars. And you remember from last year, the Browns just like to throw all their runners in a hat each week and see what comes out. I just don't think you get too excited about any of them. And I should just mention about McCown, that interception late in the fourth, marching into winning field goal territory, that is not good. That is bad, Browns fans. And that's what a bad NFL quarterback is, right? 457 yards one week, that killer interception the next. We are also sponsored today by DraftKings, and I had a great time playing against a few of you in Week 6. Let's see. I lost head-to-head against Shake and Bake 1326, though it was pretty close. I also lost to MMM Cashews and probably to Benjamin Swill, and I beat Moon King Fonz. Thanks, guys. It was a blast. And did you all know that you can play DraftKings head-to-head or in a private group of friends? It adds a different twist onto DraftKings and onto fantasy football in general. I know some folks who play in a commissioner-style league for regular fantasy football, but then All the league mates also get invited into a private DraftKings league each week where everyone gets to pick a different team every week, so their skills get put to the test fresh every week. I'm telling you, the reason people are so interested in what happens in the DFS industry is they know what I know. It's a super fun way to spice up Sundays. If you haven't tried it, I really recommend it. Go to DraftKings.com, and if you use my promo code Harris, they'll give you a free contest to try it out. So do it. DraftKings.com, promo code Harris.
Film Room Surprise.
Well, hello there, Jonathan Stewart. I actually predicted that Cam Newton would have a good game Sunday. I don't see a lot of situations where I wouldn't use Newton, because I'll take the rushing yards. I think he probably scores a rushing touchdown every other week or so. The surprise for me is the good work that the Daily Show got done from late in the first quarter on. Yes, 2 goal line scores. He lost a third one to Cam, but you know how that goes. Goal line scores come and go. What was awesome to see from Stewart, power running, just bullying through tackles. Some of his medium-length gains, they were covered. They weren't really blocked all that well, and he just manhandled his way through tacklers. I loved it. I love this guy. You all know how partial I am to Jonathan Stewart's size and shiftiness. And, I know how badly he's disappointed us at times this year. I certainly did not have him ranked really as a starter in a lot of leagues for Week 6, although in La Liga I did start him. He's going to be higher in my ranks next week. I'm not going to go crazy with him, because the Panthers get the Eagles, and the Eagles are nasty against the run, but it was great to see from Stewart. Marshawn Lynch's return got you a touchdown, so fortunately that saved you. And there were a few runs where he got loose and looked like that thundering rhino you remember from last year, like Stewart looked in Week 6. One of those was called back by holding on a Lynch run. Unfortunately, you still have worries on that Seattle line. You were playing a tough Panthers D, so there's that. I think the best news was very little drain from Thomas Rawls, at least in this one, so the hamstring wasn't much of an issue for Lynch. Fred Jackson played on third downs. Devin Funchess made one of the catches of the week on the sidelines during the Panthers' furious rally. He also had bad drops. If Jordan Matthews is Duck Hands Jr., maybe Funchess is Duck Hands the third. You want him to be Kelvin Benjamin. He was more involved on Sunday, but, I do think deep leaguers can add him speculatively and dream about it, what might happen, right? Because he is more involved and maybe he turns things around, but I don't think anybody can start him quite yet, even if you're in a really, really deep league. Jimmy Graham busted out. Many of you asked on our Twitter feed at Harris Football whether Graham's production spike was, a result of where the Seahawks had him lined up. It's hard to draw a straight line. There were definitely times where Graham lined up as a wide receiver on Sunday, but he was in the slot more often than anything else, and that's where he's been most of this year. The difference here was simply they threw it to him. They threw it a lot in general. Lynch didn't have a big day, partly because they were just throwing it the entire game. Russell Wilson had scrambles. Russell Wilson, had the long touchdown pass on the modified flea flicker. This was certainly the way that the best casers for Graham, including myself, I was kind of aboard Graham this summer, was kind of regretting that until this week. But this is the way we were imagining things would go for him this year. I think the point is, you're starting him anyway. I don't think there are too many folks who had Graham who were saying they were going to start someone else, maybe Gary Barnidge, right? But that's probably the only waiver-type guy you were thinking of starting over Graham. You don't need me to tell you to keep starting him. I don't want to, am I willing to say everything has officially changed for Graham after this 1 week? Of course not. Chargers-Packers. Had some pretty good drama. A ridiculous statistical performance from Phillip Rivers. But I think the thing we need to mostly talk about and certainly start with is the running backs. 2 pure disasters. Eddie Lacy. This was supposed to be the dream matchup that would get the Packer game running. They would finally be able to run the ball. And they did. It was just James Starks who did the running. There was no way to see this coming. Nance and Sims tried to say maybe it was about Lacy's ankle. I don't know. I thought I remembered him suffering that ankle injury in week 2. It's not that he couldn't have exacerbated it, but he wasn't even on the injury report. And, let's not try to say Starks was a workhorse. He had 10 carries and 1 reception, which was essentially a carry. It was a shovel pass that he scored on. But the fact is, I don't have snap counts right in front of me, but there can't be any doubt Starks was on the field a lot more. And it's shocking to me. Lacy was ESPN's number 1 overall draft pick this year, and I personally had him at number 5. So making no excuses. I could hear my Twitter feed without actually checking my Twitter feed. Where is Lacy? For a while, it seemed like Ty Montgomery was getting more running back work than Lacy was. John Bloody Kuhn got a red zone screen. Where is Lacy? Lacy did get a red zone carry in the second quarter and was promptly stuffed. And then he came in with the Packers up 4 and promptly fumbled, though he didn't lose it, fortunately. He was never actually benched about that or anything else from what I could see, but Starks played more. What the heck? I mean, we can't legislate usage, and we're just guessing. I don't see any way to have seen this coming. The Packers are off in Week 7. We have 2 long weeks to think about this, but I think it's safe to say Mr. Lacy is no longer on my buy low list. I was flat out wrong about him busting out Sunday, and I am as frustrated as you are. Melvin Gordon. He didn't require nearly the investment that Lacy did on draft day, but on Sunday he played himself out of a job, at least in that game. Sprinter around the edge for a 25-yard gain in the first quarter. Very next play he fumbled. DJ Fluker recovered it. Gordon hurt his foot, got it retaped, went to the locker room, came back out, drew a personal foul on a run where he was out of bounds. And on the very next play, he took a big hit and lost another fumble. And that was all she wrote. Benched for the rest of the game. Brandon Oliver takes over. UGLY, the big hit ain't no alibi. Does this mean Gordon's going to be benched going forward? We can't know that. We can't really believe what people say here. I certainly think there's a chance. By the same token, Chargers are 2-4. Probably going nowhere. And Gordon is a big part of their future, so I'm hopeful the punishment might not last, but it'll be hard to trust him next week. Phillip Rivers sure did throw a lot, set franchise records in attempts, completions, and yards. Keenan Allen had 11 catches and 129 yards in the first half. Unfortunately, Allen hurt his hip in the third quarter, went to the locker room, tried to come back in the game, and then basically sat out the entire fourth, and that might have been the difference in the game, really. Randall Cobb, disappointing day. I think the panic should not be as high on Cobb as it is on Lacy, though. I see a lot of folks saying, what's up with Cobb and Lacy? And I'm certainly more worried about Lacy after what I saw than I am about Cobb. It was a slow day. But, he's out there. He actually got a nice deep target in the second quarter. Could have been a big fantasy play. He dropped it. But, Ty Montgomery, I don't know what that injury is going to end up being, but didn't look great. Devontae Adams, supposedly close and going to come back after the bye. I have to believe that Cobb is going to be as involved as ever in Week 8. Bengals-Bills, it felt to me watching this tape that despite the way the scoreboard turned out, I thought the biggest story of this game was LaShawn McCoy. Very first play of the game, busted one for 33 yards. He had 6 carries on the first drive. They came out feeding Shady. He was tackled just short of the goal line on that 6th carry. To be honest, looked to me like he might have gotten in, but the Bills didn't challenge. They quick snapped and gave McCoy a goal line carry, but he was stuffed. And then Anthony Dixon was actually in the game when E.J. Manuel carried the rushing touchdown. Shady's touchdown came down 20 with 7 minutes left in the game. So, don't go crazy there. But overall, he played really well. I think if you look at him run and you try and compare some of the smaller backs in the league to him, I think you're kind of making a mistake because those littler guys, those Abdullahs and Andre Ellingtons and Duke Johnsons, they don't have that combo of hard cutting. Like, they can cut hard, but that slashing acceleration that McCoy has, it's made him such a star in the past. I mentioned last week I thought he was a buy. I hope you bought. I don't think he's going to be cheap anymore. Sammy Watkins had literally done nothing until the final drive of the first half. But on that last drive, 4 catches, finally the squeaky wheel was getting the oil. He had a touchdown on a completely blown coverage, but he hurt his ankle or his foot or something on the play, limped to the locker room. He was on crutches, wasn't heard from again. Hard to believe we're going to see him next week. Injuries are really piling up for this kid. E.J. Manuel, I mean, no. A couple nice throws, but mostly just so inaccurate as a thrower. The Bills really have to hope that Tyrod Taylor hurries back. And finally, let's talk about the Bengals' backfield. The workload, pretty evenly split. It seemed to me that Jeremy Hill probably had a slight advantage in terms of snap count. He was actually the guy with the early receiving touchdown, and Bernard had the rushing touchdown, but that rushing touchdown was something else. Beautiful play. The left guard and left tackle both pull and just cave in some Buffalo defenders, and Gio showed that crazy acceleration that we've liked so much. We can't really even turn this backfield into, when the Bengals are winning, Hill is the guy. Because first series of the second half, up 3 points, Bernard got the entire first series of that half. I think the only thing we really do know is that when the Bengals happen to be behind, it's going to be Gio. But when they're ahead, it's some kind of timeshare. And, Hill is going to have used to him in such situations. I go back to what I was saying just this past spring when I kept hearing from ESPN folks and other folks that Jeremy Hill is a complete back. I just don't think he is. I like what he does. He's a good banger. I just don't think he's the pass blocker that Gio is. I know he's not the open field runner or pass catcher that Gio is. It's interesting. Jake Seeley was on the show last week, and he told us he had Gio ranked way higher than Hill this week. And that turned out to be an interesting call. I'm not sure I'm quite willing to go there, but I might just have Bernard rated a bit ahead of Hill when the Bengals come out of their Week 7 bye. A.J. Green, disappointing Sunday, while Marvin Jones was doing work. On the first drive of the second half, Jones, man, he went a little crazy. Impossible 42-yard catch into double coverage where Stephon Gilmore had him blanketed, and somehow Jones catches the ball. Very next play, catches a 10-yard, it was shorter pass than that. He caught it and ran to the end zone and just acrobatically got in the end zone. You all probably know how much I like Jones, but yeah, he's tough to trust. Very up and down from week to week.
Harris's music digression.
Well, Steve Barry is back. He gave us a great George Harrison tribute a couple weeks ago, and this one, as I mentioned, is Elton John. Steve assures us it's not strictly speaking because Matt Herring gave us Rocket Man last week, but there may have been a little bit inspiration there. This one is called Starting All Your Jets.
Hey kid, your team is really feeling pain, throwing ducks and LaShawn is maybe dealing. You need a little green and white shot in the arm. Harris indexes Washington, just no call for alarm. See, Tackle and March are gonna get theirs yet. Same with Chris Ivory. Oh, you're starting all your jets. Oh, and they don't throw the tight end, 'cause Fitz is always looking long. He's got a crazy beard, he's a little weird, but you gotta trust the Ivy League. Oh, he's starting all your jets.
Today's guest.
And today's guest, it's Andy Behrens, our friend from Yahoo Fantasy. Andy, you continue to be the worldwide leader in appearances on this show. Are you flattered?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I'm like, what does that make me? Does that make me the Chevy Chase, the Steve Martin? I'm not sure. Who's the all-time leader? Is it Walken? Who's the all-time SNL appearance leader?
I think we decided your last time on you were Steve Martin, and I think you can stick, as long as you're doing this interview with that arrow through your head. Are you?
But they have them where we're going, in Orlando. Yeah, sure.
All right, so I've done a lot of film reviews so far in this particular show. Oh, by the way, folks should follow Andy on Twitter, @AndyBehrens. It's Behrens. Sorry, I didn't throw that in at the beginning.
All are welcome, sure.
And so we're going to talk a couple more games. I assigned you some film watching because I am a taskmaster, and you were going to watch these anyway, I know. And so I wanted to start out with Patriots-Colts, the Sunday night tilt. And the first thing I have to ask you is, what did you think of the 4th and dumb?
That was... Oh my gosh! So many things went wrong from the ill-conceived design. Like, I guess I kind of get it. Maybe you're trying to trap your opponent into like a 12 men on the field situation with a bizarre motion gimmick thing. But then, what a total lack of. I mean, more than anything, it just goes to the coaches. Obviously, the players on the field are making terrible decisions as it's unfolding, but everybody lines up incorrectly. They snap the ball in a situation where clearly it was going nowhere. I mean, it's just a total massive breakdown from an ill-conceived play to hilariously bad execution. It's not a stretch to call it one of the 5 worst plays in NFL history. And it didn't totally decide the game, but it certainly, everything swung in a very bad way for Indy thereafter.
It's true.
It certainly had the feel of, Mark Trestman had a play like this last year where there was like,
I remember that play.
Yeah, like illegal motion on an ill-conceived fake, and it just felt like the final nail for him in Chicago, and this just felt like the final nail.
It really did. I mean, if you
can still win the division and go to the playoffs, but it sure felt like the final nail.
Yeah, if you want to trace the Chuck Pagano to coaching somewhere else next year to anything, it's that. All right, so this probably could be considered a LeGarrette Blount game. Certainly, if you look at the box score, you'd say that because Blount had the long touchdown. He had his first receiving touchdown of his career, and Dion Lewis's numbers look bad for where we had him all ranked. With a couple plays left in the third quarter, though, it was 7-3 in carries. That was Blount over Lewis. I'm saying this isn't a reason to panic on Lewis. You?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I think I don't have the exact snap count in front of me, but I feel like Lewis was on the field plenty. Like if you were concerned that it was related to his injury, I didn't necessarily see that. I saw him out there a ton. There are going to be many games I think that swing in favor of Lewis. He has for the full season certainly looked like the more dynamic player. The long touchdown run by Blount was, I don't know. I mean, we always have to credit the back a little bit, but it was, he wasn't touched for quite a while. There's not, I'm not going to say it was the flashiest run I saw of the day, right? It didn't, he does his job, right? Right? Like there's going to be days that tilt in favor of LeGarrette Blount, but Dion Lewis has passed the eye test certainly more than Blount ever has. And so if there's maybe buy low is too strong, but if there's a buying opportunity here for Lewis coming off a game where maybe people convince themselves that the LeGarrette Blount takeover is happening, I would be all for that.
Yeah, it's not happening. I totally agree. He's a trash bag. He continues to be a trash bag, but even trash bags are allowed to be ranked high. I mean, he was inside my top 15 for the week.
Yeah, right. If he's a trash bag, he's a trash bag tied to the game's best offense, and
right.
He's clearly going to have a role, so he certainly has value. I just happen to think Lewis is the better player.
Right. Felt like order was restored a little bit among the Colts receivers, right? And we could look back at Thursday night's game for Andre Johnson and think, anomaly. What did you think of Andrew Luck's play? Not fantasy-wise, but just how did he look to you on Sunday?
So not a ton. The first thing I'll say is in terms of just arm strength and worry about the shoulder, there weren't, he didn't have any moment like Matthew Stafford did, right? He's not gunning the ball 60 yards downfield or anything like that. He doesn't have time. There's not, the line play continues to be a worry for him. Maybe it was part game script. Maybe it was just part like how much time he has to throw the ball in that offense. But there weren't like deep shots. But I thought he threw a number of outs that were, like short outs, but they were just darts. That like the exact sort of pass that Peyton Manning can't make right now. I thought Andrew Luck threw it very well. Like there was one to, like nobody likes Andre Johnson, but he threw a pass to Andre Johnson. I think gained like 4 yards, 5 yards, something like that. A critical first down throw that was actually, a very hard throw to make, right? Like a pro throw, an out that had to be very precise. And he's making those throws. So not a lot to worry about there. He had the same instincts to run the ball when that was the right play. He looked good. He at no point really in his career has he looked to me like the kind of guy that, like, if you drafted Andrew Luck in the first round, that was just super regrettable. And I imagine not a lot of your listeners did it, but in some circles that was that was promoted. That was always a bad idea. Like, he is pretty clearly not going to be a 6,000. Like, what's the countdown to 6,000 yards for Andrew Luck right now? He probably only needs another 5,000, right?
Yeah.
Like, that was never going to happen. But he certainly looked like a very useful fantasy quarterback. Again, we didn't see the huge deep shots, but I saw nothing that made me worry about his shoulder.
Yeah, the overthrows make me worry. I mean, a little bit. You got to follow through. I mean, as somebody who used to throw, I can say when your shoulder hurts, you don't tend to follow through. And, seeing so many throws high,
but I will say, I guess in the second half, fourth quarter, he sailed a lot of throws.
Yeah, I'm a little worried. But yeah, I mean, you keep using them. Here's a heretical question.
Eye roll.
Gronk has 3 straight games with fewer than 5 catches. He only has 5 targets in back-to-back games. A lot of the time, what I saw on Sunday night, literally 2 guys on him, one to bump him, one standing about 5 yards away, waiting for him to, start running. So, except for the touchdown, where the Colts basically completely forgot to cover him at all.
Totally ignored him, yeah.
Yeah. The heretical question is there any part of you as a Gronk owner that wants to see what you can get for him on the trade market?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I guess I would be thinking along those lines at all times. There's not very many players who, for me, would be like totally off the table in terms of tradability. That list might be like, I don't know. Could you ever get full price for what Devontae Freeman's doing? Would I not? Maybe I wouldn't move Le'Veon Bell. There's not many players that I would just absolutely not move. I do think that is. You have to have that multi-layered attack against Gronk. Like, you're not going to be able to single cover him. We've established that. You have to have that first guy in front of him who can get thrown around. But that first guy, that first level is just sort of inconvenient.
Ragdoll.
Yeah, he's disrupting timing, and then you need somebody else there to actually try to cover the route. Of course, when teams do that, it should open things up. Like, devoting 2 guys to a tight end is
that's why Edelman's making all those catches. I mean, Edelman's open every single play because of that.
Totally unfair advantage for an offense. So,
yeah.
I mean, there's obviously going to be games coming up where Gronk has 2 touchdowns. He's no longer necessarily on the historic pace that we might have predicted at the start of the season. But if you feel like, I'm trying to think how many guys I would actually trade Gronk for, like, in a
Le'Veon Bell. No, I mean, I'd probably take Matt Forte for him. Running back is so scarce that I think I would take some of the very, very few top running backs, but otherwise, I think I'm totally with you there.
It's probably like 5 or 6 guys.
It's 5 or 6 guys
that I would trade 1 for 1.
Agreed. Let's talk Bears Lions, a game close to your heart as a Chicagoan.
This is such a nice, honestly, this is such a nice season to be a Bears fan because they can't do anything to hurt me this year, right? Like,
not
whatever.
like the Cubs. You're not really a Cubs fan. You're a White Sox fan.
But even the Cubs have reached a point where you're in the NLCS and you're like 2 years ahead of schedule for getting there. So,
am I right that you're a White Sox fan?
I have a complicated relationship with most Chicago baseball teams. I grew up a White Sox fan, but my family. But I had a little falling out with the White Sox. No need to get into that. My family, big Cubs fans, and I had season tickets to the Cubs for a long time because we lived in the neighborhood, and my dad loved to go. So I don't feel the ancient ethnic rivalry that is actually behind the Cubs-Sox feud. So
got it. So you root for both.
I feel free to jump onto whichever bandwagon.
All right, so let's talk about this Bears Lions game. For a little while, Amir Abdullah, things were going really well. The Lions were getting some push on the line.
Yep.
They actually handed it to Abdullah on a 3rd and inches. He converted. He had some power running there a little bit, and then 3rd quarter, he fumbles again, and they don't lose it. You know how I know the Lions are lying about Abdullah not playing in regulation after that because of a shoulder injury?
Yeah.
Because in the second series of overtime, he was back out there again. I don't know. Tell me what
Right,
you thought.
he also just stood there with his helmet on, ready to go back in. I mean,
Right,
he was
wasn't
clearly
hurt.
doghoused, right?
Yeah.
And that, sometimes we like to say, well, fumbling is somewhat random, but it was part of the scouting report for him coming into the league. So this was a worry. It continues to be a worry. He is, whether it's in space or, I mean, he would be a nightmare to just play tag with, right? He's really tough to get your hands on.
But once you do, he drops the ball.
Yeah. And if he couldn't break out, the Bears obviously not a particularly challenging matchup in a game where his team had something like 500 some total net yards of offense, right? And they score 37 points for Abdullah to be largely absent and to get actually outgained, I think, by Theo Riddick. Not a good sign. They have they place a lot of trust in Riddick, and it's.
Do you have any opinion about him as a feature back? Because he basically was in the second half.
Yeah, I think he's more interesting. At some point they're going to get Joique Bell back, and they're probably going to give him plenty of snaps, whether he deserves them or not. I suppose that I like Riddick as much as I like, say, Darren McFadden right now as as a PPR-ish back, as somebody who's not going to get at any point a ton of care. I don't see them giving Theo Riddick 10, 15 carries very often, but I can certainly see a path to a bunch of games with 6, 7 catches. Decent yardage totals. I feel like by the end of the season, we'll sort of smush all the rushing stats and the backfield stats for Detroit together, and it will look like it could have been a productive backfield, but it will have been distributed among
8 guys,
3 or 4 guys in messy ways, and it's not gonna add up to anything for fantasy purposes. So
cut to Theo Riddick, a picture of Theo Riddick being compared to Darren McFadden, and he's like, "Hey, what did I do?"
It would just have to be a 12-team full PPR league, and I start getting interested in Theo Riddick. But right now, it's just kind of a mess.
I mean, I'll say this about Abdullah: he's a willing pass blocker, right? But he gets steamrolled even doing that. Theo Riddick wins there too. I've been skeptical about Abdullah all along. It feels like if you spent the 2nd or 3rd round pick you had to spend to get him, that feels like money worse spent than the Joique Bell pick we were advocating in mid-August before we knew he wasn't going to play much.
It's really a terrible spot for Abdullah owners right now too, because he's, you feel like you made that early investment. You don't want to cut him. You can't start him. And he has 0 trade value.
Yeah.
So, if people are I need immediate help, I have 2 wins, I got to drop him.
Right. 10-team league, I think he's droppable in 10-team league. Any 10-team league he's dropped. 12-team league, you have a decision.
Absolutely. It depends on where you are in the standings and how much you need to win this very week.
So that Matt Forte is pretty good, huh?
Yeah, really good.
If only someone had said he should be considered the number 3 overall player in drafts this summer. Wait a minute.
Really, really good. And he's going to turn 30, and then everybody's going to sour on him. But he's playing so well right now. Really, at almost every point in his career when I feel like he's done himself a disservice by playing through some nagging injuries at various points, because it's really affected his efficiency in certain seasons, because he always makes himself available. He plays through a lot of stuff, and when he is healthy, he is, talk about somebody who sees it immediately. And I don't know what his time speed was, not great, but man, he knows where he wants to go, and he doesn't slow down when he's when he's juking you. He doesn't slow down through cuts. Just a wonderful player who can do everything.
Yep. He's got to be the bedrock of a lot of really good fantasy teams right now. And then also in the 4th quarter, 3 straight cracks from inside the 5, right? And you don't see that a lot. That teams keep giving it to that back and keep giving, the 3rd one he gets in, and then he catches the 2-point conversion.
Last year under Trustman, that's probably 3 throws.
There you go.
In the same situation, yeah.
Yeah, there you go. Jay Cutler, since he's come back 3 straight games, he's been above average, at least fantasy. He certainly makes mistakes. That supposed fade to Alshon Jeffrey was just a horrible throw. But
right.
Is there any appeal there in Cutler for you for deeper leagues or maybe DFS?
Oh, absolutely, for sure. In the Yahoo Daily game this week, Jay Cutler was $28, whereas the top end quarterbacks were all like in the 40s. Like he's much cheaper than most quarterbacks are in most daily formats. A lot of appeal because the defense has had some supposedly good efforts lately, and certainly we all hold out hope for Fangio and McPhee's played really well, but this defense is going to get scored upon. Obviously, they had no answer for any Lions receiver in week 6. Really undersized defensive backs, underskilled defensive backs, right? Like they just got manhandled by Calvin, which no shame in that. But there are a lot of just receiver types that they are just never going to be able to do anything with. So the defense being that poor, oh, sorry, my dog just.
It's okay, keep going.
Nuts. The defense being as poor as it is, there's just not going to be a lot of games where the Bears get a lead and run out the clock, right? That's just never going to happen. So in most fantasy formats, you can always deal with interceptions. So what if Jay Cutler puts up?
Okay, you say that, but Peyton Manning nobody's dealing with Peyton Manning interceptions right now. He can certainly throw a 3-interception game and have a single-digit fantasy game the way Peyton just did.
Right. But like with Peyton, there's zero upside, and he's not pressing the issue downfield. Like he can't sustain drives very well right now. Like Jay can certainly do that. Like Jay, when he's playing really, like last week was almost a clinic from Cutler. Was a really beautiful game from him, and he made some throws that very few people can make. The touchdown to Marquise Wilson last week was crazy. An insane throw.
The question with Cutler is always just consistency. I always worry that the one week I decide I'm going to rely on him in a DFS type format is the week he decides to be a -2. But no, I'm with you. The point is,
it was actually a little annoying that they gave the ball to like the Forte sequence where he got 3 straight carries.
I was not annoyed. I personally was not annoyed, I have to say.
Well, it depends on who you invested. Like if you're a Cutler owner, that was like,
That's right.
God, I miss Tressman.
All right, so Calvin Johnson, huge bounce back. I wrote about that on Vice Sports. I hope you bought low. Alshon Jeffrey, nice. Okay, so I don't need a lengthy discussion here because heaven knows the ex-athlete pundits are going to try and struggle their way through explaining this all week. But in 10 seconds or less, Golden Tate's touchdown. Hey, what's a catch, Andy?
Oh, I absolutely hated it. It's clear that officials across the league disagree. That to me, not a catch.
No.
I listened to the guy who was trying to say that it doesn't compare in any way to the Dez play a year ago.
Right, Dean Blandino, right? They interviewed
the
Dean
Dez play. He makes 2 football moves. He actually lunges toward the goal line and he transfers the ball to his left hand like that. There were way more. There were 2 football moves on that play. There's nothing that happened with Golden Tate. The ball's getting ripped as he's crossing the goal. I have no idea.
I asked it facetiously. I mean, it's a bad call. They can justify it all they want. Given the standard they've set, it's a bad call. We just move on because that's
you could take a team of attorneys and throw them in a room, and there's no way that they could reconcile those 2 calls. They could not write a rule that accommodated both of those calls. Totally impossible.
Monday night preview.
All right, so let's talk Giants-Eagles very briefly. The big issue going into this game are the Giants wide receivers.
Yeah.
Ruben Randle listed as probable, seems pretty sure that he's going to be active. Odell Beckham, we just don't know. So let me put you in a hypothetical. All right, so you have Beckham, but you picked up Ruben Randle as insurance. And then Beckham winds up active for Monday night's game. Would you personally, I think it's a matter of opinion, but would you personally play Beckham and take the risk, or would you play Randle and play it safe?
I am for sure. I don't like Ruben Randle. People who read me, listen to me. I'm not really a Ruben Randle guy. Although I have to say he's been much better this season than at any previous point in his career. I would play Beckham here. And as we speak, what we know is that Beckham has in fact made the trip. They haven't signed any depth chart receivers to the best of my knowledge, so that would certainly suggest that Beckham is available. I might be a little bit more interested I'm as interested certainly in Dwayne Harris as I am in Ruben Randle.
Right, I'm just sort of saying the test case where Beckham is active. Right,
I'm starting Beckham.
You're starting Beckham.
Beckham is active because the ceiling for Beckham is so much higher than for any other player.
Okay.
changes, totally changes the man. Could he be used as a decoy? Sure, because he's so valuable, just as someone who has real gravity out there and who draws, defensive attention.
Mm-hmm.
It is really worrisome that it's a hamstring, right? Because in the past, when Odell has had a hamstring issue, it's like 6 weeks. It's like he always misses time. Like that's a worry. It's definitely a worry with this player, like it is with it's like Stevie Johnson and hamstrings, right? It's a serious concern, but I'm playing him if he's active.
All right. So lastly, what is your state-of-the-art opinion on the Eagles' backfield? We had Ryan Matthews pop up on the injury report this week because of a groin problem. Sounds like he's probably going to play. DeMarco Murray, well, he's had one good game in a row.
Yes. Exactly.
Busted out, but so did Matthews. I mean, they both had a lot of garbage time in that game against the Saints. If they both play, is it very clearly Murray over Matthews on Monday night?
Yeah, it's pretty clear. It's not a great, I don't know how the Giants are going to end up this season as a defense, but right now they're totally lopsided, right? They're great against the run, the best against the run in the league by some standards, and the worst in the league against the pass. Usually when we see that from a defense, it's a robbing Peter to pay Paul sort of scenario, right? Like it doesn't necessarily hold. It's really odd for a defense to be that lopsided. So
are they robbing Peter to pay Jason Pierre-Paul?
Jason Pierre-Paul, that's right. Three-finger Paul. Murray would be the guy. Murray would be my guy by a slight edge. I wouldn't feel great about that backfield until one guy is absolutely sidelined, and then I'm happy to start the other. The only one that I have any real trust in, where I feel like I know his role week in and week out, is Darren Sproles.
Right.
But he's obviously not. You don't put him on the same level as someone like Murray or Matthews, who could potentially get 12 touches and 100 yards, right? Murray would be the guy that I would go to. He's only had one game this year, and he was a disaster. Not totally his fault, right? I'm sure you've talked about it. He gets met in the backfield for the first, opening weeks of the season. He really had no chance on a lot of runs. So Murray would be my guy. I don't, I'm not overly enthusiastic about any component of that backfield or the other backfield for that matter.
Well, that's even another story entirely. It's funny. I mean, I got asked a bunch on Twitter. Okay, if Beckham misses the game, I should start Shane Vereen, right? Because he's going to get a million catches. And I'm like, have you seen this offense? I mean, Eli's putting up good numbers, but everyone else, there's just no consistency of usage. Andy, this is awesome. This is your 143rd appearance on the show, and we do tend to send out red jackets to commemorate your 143rd appearance. So that should be in the mail anytime soon, as long as the
awesome.
Chicago post office is working.
It's my pleasure. Happy to do it anytime.
Hey, and that's our show. Thank you so much for listening. Remember, you can follow Andy on Twitter at Andy Behrens, Behrens. And don't forget to check out Mott and Bow. That's MOTTANDBOW.com. You get 20% off when you use the promo code Harris. Go buy some jeans. They are ridiculously comfortable and fashionable. Also, you can get Harris Football merch. All profits go to charity, so check out our merchandise at harrisfootball.com. Tomorrow I'll cover the rest of the Week 6 film, and we'll have the fantasy footballers on to talk Week 7 waiver ads. Thanks so much for listening. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll talk to you tomorrow.
The Harris Football Podcast's opening theme is Under the Gun by Apex Manor. The end theme is Tooth and Claw by OU Villain. Subscribe to the Harris Football Podcast on iTunes and never miss an episode.